Hey guys, it's our last piece of the semester, and I saved a really good one for last. This piece is gorgeous. Before we get started, this is the Clara Schumann Opus 22 number 1. You might want to grab your score. I'm going to annotate pretty heavily on this, so it might be helpful to just kind of follow along. Also, I've been having really bizarre issues with the sound, of course, last lecture of the semester. This is my 5th time recording this. I'm going to flip a table if it doesn't work. So I'm not using the software that I normally was to pipe things kind of through my headphones and everything. I'm just going to play it off my computer speakers. It's probably going to sound like crap, but at least it'll be audible, which is better than what was happening before. So my apologies for it sounding kind of tinny and weird, but that's all I've got right now. So let's just take a listen to the selection that you're responsible for. This piece is gorgeous. I'm so excited to share it with you. So let's just give it a listen, and I'll shut up and then we can talk afterwards. All right, so that's the end of your selection. Let's talk a little bit about why we're doing this piece in particular and what I'm hoping that we'll get out of it. So Module 3 rhythms, we have dealt with the juxtaposition of 3 against 2 in various forms. So the Mozart 40, we had a piece that was in 3/4 where we conducted the quarter note beat for the most part, but then we had little selections where the half note became the primary beat unit. So we went from conducting little threes to kind of fat 3/4 patterns that extended over the bar lines. And then with Scriabin, we really explicitly took 3s and 2s and set them on top of one another. And so dealt with layering 3 against 2 and dealing with what feels like a little bit of conflict until you, I think once you sort of like feel how they sit within one another, it doesn't feel so much conflicted as just kind of cool and intricate. Now with this piece, we are dealing with groupings of 3 and groupings of 2 within one measure, and how we kind of trade between the two. So let's take, it's the first nice day in Ohio in a really long time, and I swear everyone in the neighborhood is mowing their lawns right now. So I'm sorry if you hear that too, but I'm not filming this again. Okay, let's talk about the time signature. 3/8. In a normal, simplistic world, 3/8 you would conduct in 3, maybe in 1 if it's really fast, right? But we're talking about 3/8 notes in the measure you're conducting to reflect a triple division of the measure. With this piece, our big kind of question that we're going to ask ourselves over and over is, does it feel like 3/8? Or does it feel like 6/16? Now, why is that important for you in your capacity as conductor and speaker of violin rhythm? That's going to change your conducting pattern. This is entirely analogous to the conversation we had before we left for break of, is it 3/4 or is it 6/8? It's a completely analogous conversation. So 3/8 you'll conduct in 3. 6/16 you're going to instead conduct in 2. So now if we're thinking, okay, we've got a stream of 16 16th notes that fill out the bar, right? In 3/8 we're parsing them out into pairs, right? 6/16 now we're going to chunk them into 2 groups of 3/8 notes apiece. So your conducting pattern will change. Now, we're dealing just with the violin part. I'll go into specifics at the end, but you are, in general, responsible for conducting and speaking the violin part. Now, let's just dive right into it. I'm going to give you a little key to my notation scheme before we do. So as we go through this, I'm going to annotate the score. And any measures that I throw a triangle over indicate this feels like 3/8. We're going to conduct this in 3. For those measures that feel instead like 6/16, I'm going to just put hash marks over the beats. Those are measures that you will conduct in 2. Now, in a perfect world, I would make you listen to this a bajillion times in class and come up with what feels right and what feels good for your kind of experience with the piece. Unfortunately, we cannot do that, so we're going to do the next best thing. One thing I want you to keep in mind as we go through this, and I said this with the Beethoven back when we were back on campus, beaming when you're attacking rhythms is your best buddy for those initial kind of passes through the piece. It tells you so much, and we're going to rely on beaming quite a bit with this piece. Let's jump into the measure where the violin enters. Do we conduct it in 3 or do we conduct it in 2? I'm going to draw your attention to how the rest is notated. You've got a very clear kind of distinction: 8th note, 8th rest, 8th rest, 8th note. That to me indicates that this measure, we are going to be in cognizance with the 3/8. So you are going to conduct the time signature as notated. Very next measure, though, you have 6 16th notes. Now, if they were just beamed as one big flop of 16ths, I would probably, all things considered, unless there was something that indicated otherwise, tell you to keep on going in 3. But what do we have? We have a broken beam between the 3rd and the 4th 16th notes. So we see a very clear grouping of 3 plus 3. This measure is intended to be seen and heard and felt as if it is in 6/16. Now, one thing I do think is really important for this piece is that one of the interesting factors in it is the violin and the piano are not always on the same page with 3/8 versus 6/16. So you've got to really kind of restrain yourself from looking at the piano for extra information, because it won't always kind of help you. That conflict is another layer in this piece that makes it so interesting. But right now I'm going to ask you to kind of put blinders on and just focus on the violin part. All right, so right out the gate, we get a switch from 3/8 to 6/16. Let's look at measure 5. Now, at first glance, maybe it doesn't look like it tells us all that much. But I want you to think about if this were something that were in 6/16. One of the prime kind of functions is that we want to reflect the bisection of the meter. And in doing that, you want to kind of reflect where half 1 and half 2 are. So if we were going to do that with this particular rhythm, I would argue that we would perhaps see something that looked a little bit more like that. There's kind of the middle of the bar. The rhythm as performed would still be the same, but it would reflect that intended bisection of the measure. Now, if this whole piece were in 6/16 and I saw that, I wouldn't flinch, and I wouldn't expect you to either. But if our focus here is toggling between them and deciding which one seems to work, then I would say that this instead reflects that subdivision of 3. So you've got beats 1 and 2 in the quarter note and the 3rd beat in the 8th rest. Your next measure of rest, you are going to conduct through it. And you'll just keep on going with 3. Okay. Can we just conduct through that little part? And again, if the sound is garbage, or if there's like a weird delay between what you're seeing me do and what you're hearing, you might want to just like either not watch and just listen, or just go listen to the recording on your own and then come on back. But let's work through just the first couple measures. The opening with the piano, you can conduct it kind of however you want, or you don't have to conduct. You can just come in with the violin if you like. It's your call. Okay. So one of the things that's difficult with conducting along to the recording is you don't get a really clear sense of the 16th. So let's just conduct and taw through it. And what I'd like you to do is keep a 16th note somewhere on your person. If that's too much coordination for you, you can put me on pause and throw a metronome on. But I want you to keep a 16th note somewhere on your body. And let's just taw. So don't even conduct. I'm going to give you the 16th. So if we're in 3/8, then 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. So that would be your 16th. So let's just taw through, and I'll put my 16th here so you can see it. Let's just taw through the violin part. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and ta 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 ta. And that's as far as we got, right? So now can we do that and put some conducting to it? 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2. Ta, 2, 3, ta, 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 ta. Let's try it again. And this time I won't count, and we'll just ta the rhythm. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2. Ta, 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 ta. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so hopefully that gives you maybe a little better sense of what is going on. Let's keep on going, because I don't want this video to be a bajillion minutes long. All right, picking up where we left off. Now we actually do get what I was kind of talking about and fussing about there. Now we do get a dotted eighth. And the beaming where the violin comes back in reinforces the suspicion that we are now going to feel actually the next several measures in 2. So this continues all the way to the end of that phrase. I'll close out that measure too. So once you get here, the beginning is a little dicey, and once you get to measure 7, you get to relax a little bit, and you get this passage that is entirely felt in 2. So can we go from measure 7, which is right where this dotted eighth rest is? 1 and a 2 and a 1. Ta 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 ta. And we'll stop there. That by itself, not too bad, right? Let's combine the 2. So I'm going to count you a full bar, and then we will come in on beat 3 of the next bar. 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2 and ta 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 ta. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3 ta 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 ta. Now, the most difficult sections are going to be the transitions, right? When you move from 3 to 2 or 2 to 3. What makes it even worse, if we're looking right here, this kind of transition, is that you're not doing anything. You're not saying anything. You're resting, right? You have to 100% have that 16th note in your head. That is what's going to make the subdivisions click. So while I'm on this measure resting, I am counting like crazy in my head the subdivision. So as I'm here, I'm thinking 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3, ta, ta. So if you are counting those in your head, you can even count them out loud as you practice to get used to it. That is going to make that transition gel. So let's do it again from the same spot from the top. And I'll count that out loud so that you have it and practice counting it yourself too. So full bar and then your entrance. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2. Ta, 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 ta. 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3. Ta 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 ta. All right. Now, last thing I'm going to say before we kind of mosey on back. If you are having trouble with this initial transition from your entrance bar right into the next bar, a really first step is get rid of the tie over the bar line. That is your first step anytime you're having rhythm issues that involve a tie. So your first step is take that tie out. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2, ta, 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 ta. Get used to that first. If that's still not working, if you're still not navigating that transition well, I want you to turn this into 2 16th notes. Then you've got basically consistent 16th note stream over the bar line, and then you just have to deal with parsing it out correctly. So that would sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and ta 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 ta. So then all you're dealing with is navigating the grouping just with your conducting pattern. 1 and 2 and ta 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 ta. Then as you get more comfortable with that, you can glom those 2 16th notes together to make the notated eighth. 1 and 2 and ta 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 ta. Then your last step, put the tie back in. 1 and 2 and ta 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 ta. Hopefully that will help iron that out if you're struggling a little bit. All right, let's keep on rolling. So we just got this nice passage of we feel like we're in 6/16, it's comfy, we're settled. And then when we get to this next phrase, we start at the tail end of measure 11, right? And then we get, again, this indication that we are going to feel this next bar in 3. But then look what happens the measure directly after. Looks a lot like the measure above, right? Now we have a duple. And then the next measure looks again like a triple. So at least there's a pattern that we're establishing, right? Now we are trading between 2s and 3s. Let's jump to the next page. Sorry if it gives you motion sickness. And this one continues our triple feel. And we actually, if you just look at beaming, etc., it looks like the 3 kind of reigns supreme for the next several measures. Someone now has a weed whacker out, so hopefully you can't hear that out there. All right, let's talk about this passage in a couple of different capacities. So the first thing is, as you get to the top of the page and you get to the second measure, so measure 16, you see this figure with 5 over it. This is our first exposure to quintuplets this semester. I will give you options, and I'll talk about this again at the end of the video, but if you're going to do this for a check, you are very welcome to turn that quintuplet into an eighth note. this one too. If you're doing it for a plus, I do want to hear the quintuplet, but there are a bunch of ways that you can do it. One is to just count. Ta, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's kind of a lot to spit out, but it will help you at least keep track of them if you're not used to it. When I was taught them, I was taught to use a 5-syllable word. Of course, the one that I chose was hippopotamus, which is not that easy to say either, but it's fun. So ta, hippopotamus, ta, 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 ta. It works. If you have another 5-syllable word, of course, you may use that too, or a phrase that happens to be 5 syllables. Keep it clean. But whatever you need to or want to do, if you just want to go to town. It's a little quick, so you might have to double tongue it, but if you're doing this for a plus, I do want to hear it in some version. So let's go back to the other page and work through this passage starting at the pick up to 12. So we just came off this nice train of duples, and now we're toggling between duple and triple for a while before we get a nice passage of groupings of 3. So let's go from the pick up to 12, please. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Ta 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 ta. Ta 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 ta. Stop there. Okay. Again, this transition, if it's a little dicey for you, and I'm talking about going from measure 12 to 13, maybe your first step for measure 12 is, instead of having a quarter note there, maybe have 2 8th notes. Ta, 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 ta. So get rid of the ta and put 2 8th notes there so that you have more explicit statement of the beat. Ta 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 ta. Just to make it more clear where the subdivisions are. That's still not working? Easy peasy. Make these 16th notes instead. Ta 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 ta. That's a fine first step. Having every 16th note explicitly there so that you can really connect your conducting pattern with the 16th note pulse. And then again, as you get more comfortable, then start glomming them together. Turn them into 8th notes first. And then eventually you'll be able to stick those 2 8th notes together to the quarter and then add the tie. So your progression then. Ta 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 ta. That's with all the 16th notes and none of the ties. Now I'm going to turn the 16ths into 8ths. Ta 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 ta. 8th notes, none of the ties. Your last step is to combine the 8ths into quarters. Still keep the tie out. Ta 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 ta. And then you'll add the tie in as your final piece to that puzzle. Now, if your issue is instead getting back to the duple feeling measures, you're going to do the same thing, turn it all into 16th notes and work on just toggling your grouping. Ta 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 ta. That is all the way back to the very first kind of bonus hemiola video that I gave you. Go back and practice that trading, and it'll help smooth this out for you. Okay, almost done. So measure 22 is our last measure of 3, and then we get to 23, and that is a very clear division of 2. There's our bisection of the measure. Okay. I'm going to skip measure 24 for a quick second. Measure 25, I'm going to again say that I'm looking at a bisection of the measure. I'm going to skip 26 and go to 27. This one I'm going to say is 3. So what do we do for those intermediate measures? So this is an instance of actually just, you got 6 of them, they're strung together. What do? I'm going to say that since we are sandwiched between duple divisions of the measure, just keep it rolling. In this instance, there's no need to change until you have an indication that you need to change, and that indication comes here. So can we go from measure 15? I know it's kind of in the middle of a phrase, but let's go from the top of the page to the end, and then I'll chat with you about requirements and we'll be done. 1, 2, 3. Ta 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 hippopotamus ta 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 ta. And there you have it. Like I said, you can say hippopotamus or any other 5-syllable word you can count. It's whatever suits your fancy if you are doing it for a plus. So let's talk plus versus check. If you're doing this for a check, you're going to conduct and speak the violin rhythm. Plop an 8th note in for the quintuplets. If you're doing this for a plus, I do need the quintuplets, and I also need some dynamics. The dynamics will be easier for you to kind of get into and intuit if you get to know the piece in its kind of proper form and its actual performed way better. They'll make a lot more sense, and you'll have a much better feel for kind of the framework of the piece and the flow of the piece. Just get to know it. The selection that you have is pretty short, and it's gorgeous. So get to know it a little bit. That'll make the dynamics feel like they make a little bit more sense to you. So pluses, I need you to conduct and speak with quintuplets intact and also with dynamics. That was way longer than I intended. I'm sorry. I hope that the sound was okay, and I hope that you couldn't hear half of Lakewood mowing their lawn all at the same time. All right, wonderful. Hey, it's your last video of the semester. Woo! I'll make one last kind of parting gift video at the very end, mostly probably to remind you guys to hand your stuff in time for the deadline. I'll try to be as unannoying as possible on Blackboard between now and then. Have fun, stay safe, wash your hands. I hope no one's feeling too dicey, being stuck inside and things. So I will be in touch, but otherwise have fun with this one. Enjoy the piece, and I'll talk to you guys soon.